What's up, everybody? Welcome into another episode of Bulls Latest. Your host, Matt Johnson here. I wanted to kick off today's show by recapping the Bulls' 114-105 victory last night against the Indiana Pacers, their first victory of the NBA Summer League. A great performance overall by this young Bulls Summer League bunch. The Bulls did shoot 50% as a team. I think that's a notable number. That's a very solid percentage considering the lack of offensive production we saw in the first two games of this Summer League schedule for the Bulls. They were also 30 of 34 from the line, shooting a very solid 88.2% when it comes to that. So that always helps out when it comes to trying to win a ball game. They did out-rebound their opponent in the Indiana Pacers for the first time this summer, granted by a narrow margin there of 32-29, but having that rebounding advantage proved to pay dividends for the Bulls in skating by and getting this 114-105 victory here. Turnovers, however, in an aspect to the Bulls game that were still a problem. They did amass 19 turnovers. Indiana, however, had 20, so they actually outperformed the Bulls when it came to turning the ball over, and that came to an advantage for Chicago and ultimately getting that W there. The Indiana Pacers played a sloppy brand of basketball, particularly late in the fourth quarter. They did struggle to get up and down the floor cleanly and get valuable buckets there, and that kind of allowed the Bulls to pull away late in the fourth quarter and get that 9-point victory. So I just think there's a lot of positives to take away from this contest if you're this Bulls group, considering how the first two games had looked. Noah Sangay, his best performance thus far. He did overcome that quad contusion. I didn't think it'd be a major issue. I wasn't sure if the Bulls would execute with caution when putting him back out there, but I was happy to see he played a full a massive minutes there, 31 minutes of action, shot 7 of 14 from the field, 3 of 8 from beyond the arc, pulled down 3 rebounds, dished out 1 assist, and ended up with 21 points. So Noah Sangay's best performance as a Chicago Bull came yesterday against Indiana. I'm very excited to see him get the opportunity to build off of that in tomorrow's contest against Milwaukee. Lachlan Olbrich also had a very solid performance. He had 31 minutes of action, shot 4 of 6 from the field, made his lone 3-point attempt, was 1 of 1 from beyond the arc. 9 boards he'd pulled down, dished out 4 assists, scoring 12 points. So Lachlan Olbrich also a very encouraging performance considering how he looked in his first two contests. The scoring was there, just doing things at all levels of consistency in this one. Modest Buzelis, really the star of the show for the Bulls in this one, shined in a big way. 32 minutes of action, 8 of 14 from the field. He was 50% from 3, making 2 of his 4 3-point attempts, pulled down 5 rebounds, had 1 assist, and put up 28 points there. His best performance of the summer. Granted, he did look good in both contests he was out there. It did come out, and Casey Johnson confirmed this, but the Chicago Bulls will be shutting down Modest Buzelis for the rest of the Summer League schedule. I don't hate this move. You saw what you needed to see. He played 2 very solid games for this Bulls group, and I think there's a lot of promise when it comes to what Modest Buzelis is going to bring to this roster this upcoming season. He is going to be the focal point. The Bulls have been treating that as such, and I think he looks the part. I think if this kid can get off on the right foot this upcoming season, you're going to really see him grow and blossom into a young NBA star that we're all eager to see him become here for this Bulls team. And then just another note here, Javon Freeman-Liberty continued to fill up the stat sheet there in 29 minutes of action. He shot 6 of 14 from the field, 2 of 4 from 3, 8 rebounds, and 5 assists there. I think it's another very solid performance for Javon Freeman-Liberty. And this is a guy who is really pushing for an opportunity to make this Bulls team. And honestly, he's been the most consistent when it's come to these young guys trying to make a name for themselves. He's been the best performer, not including a guy like Modest Buzelis, obviously, but Freeman-Liberty, a guy who I'm excited to see potentially get an opportunity to suit up for the Bulls as we move in to the NBA preseason following the NBA Summer League slate. So again, another guy I would add to that group would be Yuki Kawamura. He had a double-double off the bench last night in 28 minutes of action. He had 15 points while dishing out 10 assists there. So a very solid performance from Yuki. Showed that energy, got up and down the floor with speed and consistency. He was a very solid distributor of the basketball. I think that's a highlight of his game. And then when you get him adding points to that with 15 off the bench, I think that's just a surplus in the production there for Yuki. So the hype is there for this guy, as we saw with the Memphis Grizzlies and all the excitement that came with a guy like Yuki Kawamura, and that certainly showed in yesterday's contest in the Bulls' 114-105 win over the Indiana Pacers. So definitely a lot to look forward to and build off of for this win for the Bulls. I just think when you look at this group as a whole, you got a second-year guy in Modest contributing in a big way. You had some young guys produce. You had finally the big performance we were all waiting from Noah Senge. Lachlan Olbrich looked good, so there's a lot to be excited about if you're a Bulls fan in that performance yesterday. Now, I don't want to get too overreactory to a summer league contest, but when you're looking at these young guys and the goal being continuing to develop through these couple of weeks, yesterday was a great sign and a good opportunity to see that. So, the Bulls will have one more contest here. They will have two guaranteed, but one more regular season contest in this tournament, like you could say, and that'll come against the Milwaukee Bucks. I kind of wanted to preview that just a little bit here. And look forward to tomorrow's game, which will take place at 5:30 p.m. Eastern against Milwaukee. Milwaukee is, again, 1-2 this summer, the same record as Chicago. They started their schedule with a 90-89 win over Denver, and then lost the last two contests with a 93-83 loss to Cleveland, and then a 106-91 loss to the Los Angeles Clippers. Some key performers and some guys to preview when it comes to Milwaukee's Summer League bunch: Jamari Bouye, Chris Livingston, Pete Nance, and Andre Jackson Jr. Those guys have all been steady contributors for this group for Milwaukee this summer, and those are names to watch in this Bulls contest. I'm excited to see Noah Senge get back out there along with Lachlan Olbrich and these young guys with Chicago who continue to build off of that momentum from that win against Indiana. We'll keep an eye on that one. I wanted to switch gears here and kind of talk about a situation that's been ongoing, and I've been talking about it since the draft, thinking that maybe both of these guys would have been moved by this point, but I'm not surprised that they have stuck around. It is interesting to note, though, the Bulls are continuing to shop both Ayo Dosunmu and Coby White, both drawing plenty of trade interest. Like I reported a few weeks back, Ayo Dosunmu is actually drawing more interest than Coby White. While the Chicago Bulls could wind up holding on to both guards and address their futures at the trade deadline this upcoming season, there's still buzz that exists regarding one of these guys in particular, and I think that's all pointing to Ayo Dosunmu. Coby White has arguably been the best player for Chicago's roster in recent years, however. He's emerged as their go-to scorer. He's shown flashes of a future partnership next to Josh Giddey. That continues to be an interesting situation there as well. We haven't really had many updates in regards to Josh Giddey's contract situation. However, with Coby White, obviously I've reported on this a few weeks back and as I started this podcast, but he's entering the final year of his current contract and will likely want to pay a pay raise next season. So the Bulls will probably allow him to become an unrestricted free agent next season if they don't trade Coby White. That's a very plausible possibility there. I think when it comes to Dosunmu, he's likely at the back end of the guard rotation, and Trey Jones receiving that extension from the Bulls only cements that. I think it's an interesting spot for Ayo. He's not going to be a guy who wants to play behind Trey Jones. Trey Jones has impressed Billy Donovan since arriving midway through last season, so I just think the guard rotation sees Ayo Dosunmu at the back of it right now if you're the Chicago Bulls. And Ayo's definitely a guy who could contribute well to an NBA roster and a winning one at that. I think he's ready to win some ball games. So keep an eye on Ayo Dosunmu to be moved. I think Coby White will probably be around to start next season. Both guys could, but it's more likely that Ayo gets moved before the season if anything happens here. Obviously, Nikola Vucevic, a guy, it's been kind of quieted in terms of the activity surrounding his name, so we'll keep an eye on him as well to go along with obviously Josh Giddey and what that situation is going to amount to moving forward. So I just think when you look at this Bulls team, a very exciting performance yesterday from this Summer League bunch. I'm excited to see them get back on the floor tomorrow. And then a lot of uncertainty surrounding the current mass of players on this roster, the veterans and the guys that have been around. So I know Billy Donovan's excited to get this Summer League schedule on a good pace here moving forward. I think he's in a good situation coaching this young team and looking forward to building off of last year and the solid closing performance they had to end last season. So, again, I want to thank you guys for joining me on this episode of Bulls Latest. We will give you a recap of the Bulls Bucks contest tomorrow. We'll also kind of look into that to see if we have more information on who's playing and who's not leading up to that game tomorrow. So, again, let me know what you guys want to see. Who do you want to see out on the floor? What has impressed you thus far? What has disappointed you thus far? Let me know your reaction to this Bulls Summer League group. Do you want to see Ayo Dosunmu be a part of this team moving forward? I know a lot of you guys have expressed Kobe White and your interest to have him stick around. So a lot of things happening. I'm excited to kind of see this Bulls team take shape as we move into the brunt of the offseason and the eventual preseason and regular season next year. So thanks again, guys, for joining me on this episode of Bulls Latest, and we will see you tomorrow.